In the 2000s, the dog whisperer Cesar Millan made dog training look like magic and hooked his viewers. But as his fame grew, so did harsh criticism of his methods and a string of controversies that dented his once spotless reputation.
That's what we call aggression.
Okay.
In 2021, Millan faced a high-profile lawsuit from a woman named Lydia Mattis, whose mother worked for the dog whisperer. According to court documents obtained by TMZ, Mattis said she'd visited her mother in 2017 at a building Millan owned and encountered his pit bull, Junior. She claimed the dog was roaming the halls off-leash and unsupervised when it lunged at her, biting her several times on the legs. Injuries serious enough to send her to the ER and, according to her, derail the future she'd been working toward.
It pretty much ended my career.
Mattis described herself as a rising gymnast being recruited by the University of Pennsylvania and said the bites left her in such pain she could no longer compete, a devastating blow to her Olympic dreams.
Gymnastics was my entire world.
Millan called the lawsuit a shakedown, and his rep told People magazine that her lawyer had demanded $850,000 or threatened to go to the press. Millan refused to pay, and the case was ultimately settled out of court shortly before trial after years of legal wrangling.
Finally!
In her suit, Mattis also claimed Junior had a history of aggressive behavior toward both people and other dogs. To bolster that claim, TMZ reported that her filing included a disturbing allegation involving Queen Latifah, that she'd brought 2 dogs to Millan's training facility, where Junior allegedly fatally attacked one. According to the suit, Millan then told his staff to say the dog had passed away after being hit by a car to cover up the incident. Millan's rep directly addressed that part of the lawsuit in their statement to People Mag, calling it a blatant lie. Queen Latifah has never confirmed or denied the allegation and didn't respond to a request for comment from Page 6. However, a photo she posted of herself with Millan on X is still live, which many point to as casting doubt on the claim. Together, the accusations painted a much darker picture of Millan's brand, just as he was trying to move on from the dog whisperer, and the case became one of the most widely reported legal challenges of his career. Millan's training tips have often sparked debate, and one in particular has been especially controversial: the shock collar. That part of his method hit the spotlight when he appeared on a UK talk show hosted by Alan Titchmarsh. On air, Titchmarsh pointed to dog whisperer episodes showing Millan punching dogs and using collars that delivered electric shocks, calling the tactics totally unacceptable.
This is pretty barbaric treatment. We wouldn't treat children like this nowadays. We'd be locked up if we did.
The interview instantly made the whisperer a toxic figure in Britain and forced him to respond. In a statement to the Daily Mail, Millan stressed that shock collars were used only when every other option had failed. He added, "I am not brutal or cruel to animals. I use many techniques to rehabilitate dogs." He explained that in extreme cases, when he's the last resort before a dog is put down, those tools might be necessary. While Millan often says he trains people, not dogs, his methods have sparked plenty of criticism.
Cesar suggested that I take some sort of martial arts class.
Among his most vocal detractors is canine expert and author Mark Durr, whose books include Dog's Best Friend and How the Dog Became the Dog. In a New York Times op-ed, Durr blasted Millan's, quote, outdated techniques shown on The Dog Whisperer. He called Millan's dominance-based methods a one-man wrecking ball against decades of behavioral progress, and added, National Geographic and Cesar Millan have cleverly repackaged a simplistic view of the dog's social structure and built a one-size-fits-all approach to dog training. Dogs, Durr argued, are as individual as people and respond differently to training. While he conceded that Millan's tactics sometimes succeed, he stood by his argument that they, quote, fly in the face of what certified veterinarians and animal behaviorists have learned. Durr also dismissed Millan's claim that dogs respond better to men than women as laughable. In response, Millan told the Times-Union, "I respectfully disagree." In 2006, TV producer Floody Suarez enrolled his Labrador Retriever, Gator, at Millan's Dog Psychology Center, and things quickly went wrong. Suarez sued Millan, claiming the dog had been seriously injured during training. According to the Associated Press, the lawsuit alleged that Gator had been choked with a collar and forced to run on a treadmill. Just hours after drop-off, Suarez received a call that his pet had suffered a medical emergency and been rushed to a vet. When he arrived, he said Gator was bleeding from his mouth and nose, in an oxygen tent, gasping for breath, and with severe bruising to his back inner thighs. Suarez claimed he spent $25,000 on vet bills and sought more than that in his suit. Millan declined to comment to the New York Times. A National Geographic spokesman stated the injuries weren't related to the Dog Whisperer production and that Millan wasn't present. The same week in 2006 that Millan was sued by Floaty Suarez, he was hit with another lawsuit, this one seeking $5 million in damages. That suit, filed by Millan's former publicist and her partner, sought damages from Millan and other defendants over claims that they'd come up with the concept and title of The Dog Whisperer. According to the suit, they did so before Millan went rogue and pitched their ideas to National Geographic as if they were his own. The lawsuit alleged that Millan had breached his contract, committed copyright infringement, and breached a confidential relationship with the publicist claiming to have invented the Dog Whisperer name. Naturally, Millan disputed those claims.
They took the name The Dog Whisperer and whatnot,
Well,
right?
this is when I learned about Hollywood and the legal way to be dishonest.
Ultimately, Millan retained the copyright to The Dog Whisperer, but there was a big catch.
The rights I got to get them back, but the money, no.
Another lawsuit arrived on Millan's doorstep in 2015 when a critical care nurse in Florida sued Millan over claims she'd been severely attacked by a pit bull trained at his dog psychology center. According to the Los Angeles Times, the nurse claimed in her suit that the dog had been released too early from Millan's training facility and was supposed to undergo an additional 18 months of training before being returned to a public setting. The filing stated, when the dog's owner fell behind on monthly payments to keep it housed at the dog psychology center, the center prematurely released the known vicious and dangerous pit bull back into the public domain and entrusted it to someone with no training or experience in the handling of vicious and dangerous dogs. The Dog Psychology Center responded with a statement from its director, insisting Millan had not personally trained or even had contact with the animal. By 2016, Cesar Millan had moved on from The Dog Whisperer to a new show.
This is Cesar 911.
The format wasn't much different from his earlier effort, featuring Millan working with dogs that were causing problems in their communities.
No one can feel comfortable entering Grandma's house with Buddy in this state.
One episode sparked heavy criticism when a live animal was used as part of a training exercise for a dog with a history of aggression toward that same species. Viewers flooded social media with complaints, and some even filed reports with Los Angeles area authorities. A spokesperson for Nat Geo Wild told The Wrap the session was designed with safety precautions and that viewers were missing important context. After a full investigation, officials announced that no charges would be filed. Millan's attorney said his client had cooperated fully and appreciated the independent review. While Millan avoided criminal charges for that particular Cesar 911 episode, public anger lingered. A Change.org petition calling for National Geographic to pull the Dog Whisperer garnered more than 14,000 signatures. Another petition asked that Millan be banned from television entirely, accusing his methods of being outdated and harmful, and warning that the public might copy them. A 2019 petition from the UK urged broadcasters there to stop airing his shows, while yet another similar Canadian petition targeted national networks. Even a planned exhibit at a Texas Science Museum drew opposition. The critics behind that petition declared the scientific behavior and modern dog training communities believe this will negatively impact the welfare of dogs in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and beyond by suggesting to the public that his forceful and sometimes abusive techniques should be used by pet owners. Not every dog owner with a negative experience at Millan's training facility took him to court. One of those owners, Lehia Morris, instead wrote about what happened. In her essay for The Crossover Trainer, Morris said her dogs became hostile toward others after training at Millan's Dog Psychology Center, a big shift from the friendliness they'd shown before.
Calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down! Well, what about you, Mama? You're gonna be calm?
Even bigger changes took place when she decided to board one of her pets at the center for 2 weeks while away. When she returned, she wasn't happy to see her dog wearing an electric shock collar and grew concerned when the animal began exhibiting a new anxiety disorder. While Morris was eventually able to manage her dog's behavior through positive reinforcement, its anxiety never entirely vanished. She wrote, "The long-term effects of Cesar Millan's influence, including his use of an electric collar on my dog, have been devastating to him."
That's a demanding bark.
It is?
Yeah.
While The Dog Whisperer became a major hit, making Cesar Millan arguably America's most recognizable dog trainer, the backlash that had long bubbled under the surface sometimes rose up. In 2006, the American Humane Association sent a letter to the network complaining about Millan's harsh dog training methods. The vice president of Animal Protection Services wrote, "As a forerunner in the movement towards humane dog training, we find the excessively rough handling of animals on the show and inhumane training methods to be potentially harmful for the animals and the people on the show." That letter drew the attention of actor Richard Belzer, who quoted the letter in a HuffPost op-ed and urged Emmy voters to support any other show, warning, "Dog owners and dog lovers would be disturbingly misled if Mr. Millan and his program are honored in such a high-profile way." Millan was hit with yet another lawsuit in 2014. This one came from Adriana Barnes, who'd previously been employed by Millan at his dog psychology center. In her suit, she alleged that Millan had fostered a dangerous work environment. As TMZ reported, Barnes alleged she routinely worked long 12-hour shifts without being allowed any breaks to eat or even use the restroom. Most of her coworkers were devoid of experience, who'd often let the animals in the facility run free. This, she claimed, led her to be bitten repeatedly by dogs and was once, trampled by a llama.
That's pretty bad.
Barnes was suing for wrongful termination, claiming Millan fired her after she'd come to him with her complaints. Furthermore, she alleged that the distress she experienced from that abrupt termination led her to take so much anti-anxiety medication that she overdosed and was placed on life support for 3 days before eventually recovering.